All right, let's bring in our panel, David Bossie, the president of Citizens United and the Citizens United Foundation. David is Skyping in from Washington, D.C. Also joining us on Skype, former GOP presidential candidate, former governor of Virginia, and the former chairman of the Republican National Committee, Jim Gilmore. He also heads up the Free Congress Foundation. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Good, thank you.
All right, David, let's start with you. On the eve of Super Tuesday, do you believe a big-time Trump victory in terms of delegates in states tomorrow is inevitable?
Well, I don't know. Look, if we're reading the polls, we're going by that. Absolutely. It looks like Mr. Trump is going to win a big victory tomorrow in a lot of places. Really, it's going to come down to can his two main opponents, Cruz and Rubio, keep him at or below the 300 delegate count. I think that it's really a very important number. The more that Mr. the higher he is over 300, the more difficult it is for them to find a pathway forward.
Yeah, Jim, I haven't seen, or Governor, I haven't seen the way, there's any way that Donald Trump leaves Super Tuesday without 300 delegates in his column. We saw the poll number. We just heard Miranda mention that, 30-point advantage there. We hear concerns about establishment voices in a state of panic right now. None of it in the past has seemed to stop Donald Trump. And if establishment voices are panicking right now, there's no reason to believe that it's going to do anything to slow down Donald Trump. Would you agree?
Well, as David said, by all the polling, it looks like Donald Trump's going to have a good victory tomorrow. I don't expect him to win Texas, but I believe he will win substantially in other places, and I think going forward will as well. I don't think any of that's all that important. I think what is important is trying to understand what his appeal is, the anger that he's responding to, the voice that he's giving to dissatisfied people, and what is that, and why is it? And what can the Republican Party do to be responsive to that? And above all, what we can do to make sure that Hillary Clinton is not the president this coming November. And that means that the party has got to really go out there and make a different case for the future of America.
Well, instead of doing just that, today and yesterday as well, the Republican Party has been dealing with this issue with Donald Trump and the KKK endorsement. Of course, it sparked a lot of controversy over the weekend. Here is Mr. Trump this morning trying to explain his answer to a question about an endorsement from the KKK and David Duke. Let's take a listen.
Now I go and I sit down again. I have a lousy earpiece that is provided by them. And frankly, he talked about groups. He also talked about groups. And I have no problem with disavowing groups, but I'd at least like to know who they are.
All right, David, are you buying the bad earpiece excuse?
Well, look, I don't know what look, let's get to the facts of the matter. Donald Trump is not a politician. He is very good on television. He understands what he's doing. However, I would just say to you that Donald Trump, unlike a lot of us, when you say David Duke to me, I know who David Duke is immediately. I am somebody who participates in this process in a way that Mr. Trump really does not and has not. So I think he probably knew who Donald Trump, who David Duke was, but I have no idea. And for me to sit here and say, oh, he's making it up, I think this is a lot to do about nothing. Look, I go back to Governor Gilmore's point. This has everything to do. It has nothing to do with that particular answer. It has everything to do with the American people being incredibly upset.
Well, Governor Gilmore, let me talk to you about this Washington Post piece. The article today says that the GOP's implosion over Donald Trump has arrived, and instead of looking ahead to Hillary Clinton, the Democratic frontrunner, quote, the GOP has instead become consumed by this crisis over its identity and core values that is almost certain to last through the July party convention, if not the rest of the year. This kind of goes back to this side conversation we're having about Donald Trump and the KKK. Also, this controversy about a reporter getting slammed today at a Trump event in Virginia. This is not the kind of thing you want to be talking about if you're looking at the Republican Party's brand and image, is it not?
It is not. Let me say two things. First of all, Donald Trump and I certainly and other Republican leadership has got to denounce any type of endorsement from David Duke or the KKK.
I mean, you've been in that position before where you got to answer those questions like that. As a grade, what grade would you give him in the way he's handled the situation thus far?
I don't care to grade Trump one way or the other. I've made it clear from the beginning that Jim Gilmore is a person who believes that the Republican Party has to be inclusive. I've made that clear in the debates. I've made that clear in my other statements I made in Florida. And I just think that anybody that wants to be our candidate has to move very quickly about that. Now, the second point is, what are we going to do about the Republican Party? I'm going to tell you now, I think the Republican Party of the United States, the RNC, was criminally negligent in outsourcing the nomination to the establishment electronic media, the major cable and other networks. I've made that very clear. And what you've seen now is the debates, which actually I've been there. I've seen this. The debates governed who had a chance to be in the race and who didn't. It governed who was then going to be in the national conversation. I think it was wrong. I think that there ought to be an investigation.
But David, we're not just talking about the establishment anymore. I mean, Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse posted this on his Facebook page yesterday. My current answer for who I would support in a hypothetical matchup between Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton is neither of them. I sincerely hope we select one or the other GOP candidates, but if Donald Trump ends up as a GOP nominee, conservatives will need to find a third option. This is Ben Sasse. This is not a member of the establishment.
Well, I don't care. Well,
David first, Governor, and then we'll get to your answer.
Yeah, the main point is that that I was in this race to offer a sound conservative mainstream alternative in the race, and was frozen out by the press and the news media, who was delegated that right by the Republican National Committee. I'm not going to let them off the hook here, John. I think the RNC people ought to do an investigation about who decided to do this, with complete transparency, whether any money changed hands from the networks to the Republican Party, all of this. We need to know what's going on here, because this has been a train wreck. And you could tell that from the debate over the weekend. Yeah,
based on that last investigation by RNC, I'm a little leery about the money that they throw around on these types of things. David, go ahead. I wanted to get your reaction to Ben Sasse there.
Well, look, Ben Sasse is a terrific conservative leader. Look, I think we're all going to have to make up our own minds. But look, for me, the Republican nominee, I didn't like Mitt Romney. I actively worked against Mitt Romney. I worked against John McCain in the primaries. But as a conservative leader, when the time came to get behind the nominee, I was there for them. I didn't like them. I didn't want them to be my nominee. But once they were, I lived with it. I think there'll be a lot of those decisions that will have to be made. I think a third-party candidacy from a conservative would only undermine Mr. Trump's ability to put it all together, and we'd be electing Hillary Clinton.
I don't know. Maybe the third option is some sort of development at the convention. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. And the rules about which delegates are beholden to which candidates after the first ballot, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. One last prediction from you guys. We've got about 30 seconds left. We need a one-word answer. Governor Gilmore, what's the delegate count for Donald Trump at the end of tomorrow night?
I haven't counted the delegates. All I can tell you is that it looks like Donald Trump has won the argument here this particular year, and I think that it's troublesome. But I think, look, my focus is going to be on making sure that we carry for against Hillary Clinton.
All right, David. If Donald Trump wins every state except for Texas, has he sewn up the nomination?
I don't know about that. It'll depend on, because there's a lot of proportional delegates here. Look, if Donald Trump gets 290, 300, 310, I think that there'll be a conversation about people going forward. If he gets 340 or 350, which is really a number he's targeting, or at least he's looking at, that's a number that really makes it difficult for everybody else to move forward. So, really,
magic number from Mr. Bossie there, 340, 350 range. We'll look forward to see if that's where Donald Trump winds up. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being with us. A pleasure. Just a reminder, we have live election coverage tomorrow starting at 6 o'clock p.m. We hope to see you there.